Welcome to AM 620 KPOJ. Now Thom Hartmann nationwide, 9 to noon, AM 620 KPOJ and 620KPOJ.com.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Welcome to the Thom Hartmann program.
Now, speaking from behind the good old working class stainless steel microphone, here's Thom Hartmann.
Welcome back. The Libertarian Party has had its party. It's had its nominating convention. And they have decided that the former Republican congressman from Georgia, Bob Barr, is going to represent the party. BobBarr2008.com is his website. And Bob Barr, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be with you all once again.
Yeah, good to have you back here with us. There are some areas, and I think we both know them, where we starkly agree and where we starkly disagree. And I'd like to touch on some of both of those if we can today. In an area where I suspect that we probably both starkly agree, today's Supreme Court decision saying, sorry, the Constitution says habeas corpus is habeas corpus.
This is a tremendously important decision. I was, as many Americans who pay attention to these issues like yourself were a year and a half ago, distressed to see the then Attorney General of the United States, Alberto Gonzales, appear before the Senate of the United States and basically stake out the position that habeas corpus is no longer considered a fundamental right by this administration, right. And yet there was no public outcry. At least we have this decision of the U.S. Supreme Court. One would have hoped it would have been a 9-0 decision rather than a 5-4 decision, but at least they very clearly now have enunciated the standard, and that is that habeas corpus is a fundamental right and cannot be arbitrarily or cavalierly taken away from somebody detained by the United States in its territory.
Well, and in fact, the Constitution says habeas corpus shall not be suspended but upon insurrection or invasion, as I recall the language. Correct. And uprising or invasion, something like that. And it's just mind-boggling, which raises the question, from the libertarian perspective, or from Bob Barr's perspective, what do we do about people who have grossly violated their constitutional oath? George W. Bush, the Bush administration. I mean, you led the floor. You were one of the floor leaders for the impeachment of Bill Clinton. It seems to me that at the very least we have impeachable acts, violations of the Constitution, not just by George W. Bush, but I would argue by, we still have 3 members of the Supreme Court who were sitting in 2000 when Bush v. Gore was issued, which was, in my opinion, unconstitutional. I mean, they essentially said in the decision, this decision cannot be used as precedent. Which is like saying that they're stepping outside of what their rights are. And the Constitution clearly says the states will decide what electors they're setting, not the Supreme Court. For example, I mean, how do we hold accountable from Colin Powell to George Bush to Dick Cheney for the war in Iraq and for these strange decisions on the Supreme Court? What are your thoughts on that?
Congress has failed miserably under both Republican and Democrat leadership in recent years to fulfill its obligation in terms of both general oversight of the executive branch to ensure that the laws passed by the Congress are carried out by the executive appropriately and with due deference to the intent of the Congress. One Congress after another, has failed to conduct appropriate oversight. It doesn't matter whether it's Republican or Democrat. Both of them are bad at it. And secondly, the American people don't demand that the Congress conduct proper oversight, and that means to conduct inquiries to determine whether there is evidence of impeachable offenses. The American people can't do it directly. We can't have a citizens' court. The mechanism is provided in the Constitution. Congress has to do that. In order for there to be articles of impeachment crafted or even an appropriate inquiry of impeachment, there has to be some evidence. We don't want people just shooting from the hip. Right. And that's the job of the Congress. And Congress has simply not done that. They have not inquired into the specifics, for example, of what appears to be the unlawful eavesdropping on American citizens by this administration, and into the work of the telecommunications companies in carrying out those surveillances, in order to determine whether or not there is evidence of an impeachable offense there.
Right. For example, one of many. Kucinich listed 35 of them a couple of days ago.